There's much Houston. Thanks for waiting.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm good.
What'd you have for us?
I'm sorry, there's a bit of an echo on my end, but I do have my stream off.
Cool.
But I wanted to talk about my mother. I'm really lucky that my whole household are atheists. My extended family aren't, but my mother is an atheist. My sister is too, even though she goes to a Catholic church, Catholic school. But what I wanted to talk about is my mother doesn't believe in science. And it's a really weird thing because I'm trying not to get into the political stuff because I know you guys don't do that. But she doesn't believe in climate change.
So, okay, when you say she doesn't believe in science, is it just specific things, or does she like reject science on the whole? Because she goes and sees a doctor, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah. It's specific things that go along with her political views.
Right.
But the political views are usually backed by solely religious things.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
no, this is not at all unusual.
Yeah.
People don't generally understand science. As soon as they get some misinformation about it, one of the most common attacks on science is that, well, science used to say this and now it says this, so I can't rely on it. And I think the best response to that is that, first of all, science doesn't say this or this. It's scientists who make pronouncements based on their methods. And yes, it's true that in the past, scientists, using good scientific methods, have come to conclusions which we now know are wrong. How did we find out that those conclusions were wrong? We didn't find out they were wrong because of religion or political ideas. We found out they were wrong because people used more science. The only thing that's ever disproved science is science, or the finding of scientists is more findings. But, you know, going back to like David Hume, where he says the wise person apportions their belief to the evidence, if you're letting your political ideologies get in the way of the actual science, it's like on climate change. The verdict is in. Now, you can have all kinds of debates about whether or not it's, you know, anthropogenic, whether or not humans have much to do with it.
To what degree?
Yeah, and what, if anything, we can actually do about it. But, and whether or not it's permanent, whether or not, you know, we could be looking at something cyclical. Even if you know absolutely nothing about this, the fact that this is happening is now completely undeniable. And the people who are saying, no, this isn't happening, either mean that they think it's going to fix itself or whatever. You can just look at pictures of the polar ice caps. You can look at the actual data, and the bulk of the scientific community and every major scientific organization has come out and said, yep, it's real.
And I've told her all this, and I've tried to explain it, and she knows. And it's so strange because she works with plants, and she's worked with plants for 20-something years. And so she knows that where the plants now can live has changed, but she just... no matter what I say to her, it goes back to, well, oh, you're a liberal, you've been brainwashed, blah, 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 blah. And
so find her some non-liberals.
It doesn't even matter what I show her. She is convinced it is a giant conspiracy.
What has convinced her that this...
Really right-wing conservative talking points that are really old.
People who aren't scientists have convinced her that
yes,
the science is wrong.
So does she think, now I can understand somebody, because we're stuck. We're stuck picking out which sources we're willing to accept. I mean, this is inevitable. And so she's decided that she's going to rely on some sources that you think she shouldn't, and I would probably agree with you. But so I can see how somebody can get there. But if they just stay there and are unwilling to look at new evidence, then the question to ask them is, why are you unwilling to look at this, and why are you rejecting this evidence? Because do you think that there's a conspiracy among scientists to support some sort of liberal agenda? Because that's not the way science works. The first person who comes along who says, hey, all of these climate scientists got it wrong, here's the data for this, they get a Nobel Prize, it gets written, you know, this is the way that things work. Science thrives on overturning established ideas within science.
And she believes that exactly for everything else except for these few really radical views, which are pretty much solely politically based. And it's not like I haven't said, oh, why don't you look at the other stuff I've tried to show her. I've tried to show her from NASA. I've tried to show great scientists talking about it in depth. And her response is, well, why haven't you listened to the other side? And she'll show me stuff from like, and I'll read it and I'm just like, well, I can show you why all this is wrong. And she's like, well, I don't trust this source or that source or this source, even though they're reliable sources.
So I'm gonna ask you something that's gonna lead to something that none of us are gonna like, but it's reality. Does it matter what your mom believes? Is she gonna change the world?
Oh no, it doesn't. But the thing is we get along really well until she starts going down the, oh, have you seen this article road?
Yeah.
And we live together, and so it's really frustrating, and it really is putting a strain on our relationship more than it should.
Yeah.
Like, it makes no sense for political things to make us this upset with each other.
I have relatives who will post memes on the internet that are just like batshit crazy memes that are, where Snopes has debunked this, and there's countless sites, oh, this is what's happening with Halloween candy or whatever else. And they're unwilling to accept any sort of correction or any information that contradicts it. The one thing, I care about what people believe, but if it's clear that I'm not going to be able to change somebody's mind, then I've kind of got to let that go. And so, like with my mom, we don't discuss religious stuff anymore because it just gets in the way of actually having a relationship. And we both found ways to have conversations that don't go there. I don't know of any other solution.
Oh, sorry.
No, I don't know any other way to deal with it.
Okay.
Because it may take somebody else or some other information, or it may take, right-wing sources that are starting to, come on board to actually change your mind. I don't know.
Okay, because I've told her before, like, I don't want to talk anything political with you because we just end up in a fight, and it's only her I have this problem with. Normally I'm level-headed, cool, but with her it's very explosive.
Yeah, it's because you care.
Yeah, and she keeps bringing it up, and I'm just like, I don't want to freaking talk about this, Mom.
Yeah, at some point you have to choose your battles and just say, I'm not going there.
Okay.
Kind of nod and smile politely and change the subject. Because I always say you can't reason somebody into a position that wasn't arrived at through reason. And this is one of those cases, I think, where she's got her mind made up, and it doesn't matter what you show her.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Now I'm really, I guess, bad in the sense that I hate giving up on people. Don't get me wrong, there are people on Twitter that I'm happy to block just because they demonstrate incredible stupidity and hatred and stuff that I just don't need in my life. Yes, I could probably have a conversation with them and convince them, why they're wrong or why what they did was terrible, or why they could have perhaps taken a different route. But I have more important things to do with my time than try to fix everybody everywhere. And so what I'll end up doing is just kind of blocking some of them. You can't do that. But what you can do is, if you really want to make your best shot at this, find out something she believes that is based on the same or similar information from the same or similar sources. Because that way you can expose that, oh, she's willing to accept this source and this data, provided it agrees with her preconception, but rejects the same thing when it disagrees. So instead of focusing on some of the specifics about climate change that she might reject, if the data that they're using points to other things, like the likelihood that you're going to have a better or worse winter where you live, or that winter is starting later, and she can observe this and see it and accept it, you can say, Mom, this is based on the same data that you reject, with regard to climate change. That's about as good as I can probably get, but it's going to take some work.
Yeah, it's going to take more, but thank you. And I know even if I said that, she would go, oh, well, the climate changes all the time. It's just crazy.
Weather.
But,
so she might be confusing climate and weather. Weather changes all the time.
Yeah. And I've tried to explain,
Just for my own amusement,
thank you so much.
is she the type of person that's likely to say on a cold day, oh yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
So much for global
so
warming.
much for global warming?
Yep.
Yeah. Then I think probably you could have a conversation about the difference between weather and climate. And there's some good videos on YouTube that actually discuss the difference between weather and climate and how that sort of single data point anecdotal thing is absolute garbage. And I would imagine she would shrug it off as well. I wasn't being serious. I wasn't saying that just because it was cold today completely disproves it, but I don't know. I do wish you luck, and like John said, you kind of figure out how to pick your battles. But if you're going to do it, it might take a lot of work. You got to figure out whether or not you want to do all that work.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Have a good